Today, it's Edwin's Monday evening property rant. Hi again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics, who I've noticed post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Another Monday evening, another rant with Edwin. Hi Edwin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Martin. I'm doing well. But they did tell me that Robbie's inflating some balloons down in Melbourne or something like that. I know. Is that right? Is that right?
They found the little capsule, and then there was a big balloon in the.
Yeah.
Then the balloon went up, and it's interesting. Did you notice that all of the media in the US are calling it a spy balloon, right? Whereas in China it's a weather balloon. So it's a matter of perspective.
Yeah. Look, I read something really funny. I just couldn't stop laughing. America are concerned about a weather balloon, or let's call it a spy balloon, whatever. They're concerned about that, but yet 1/3 of the population is on TikTok.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Well, there's a few people in the US saying get off TikTok because they're spying on you. There's another weather balloon down in South America as well. So I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but certainly it's been blown up literally out of all proportion.
Well, yeah. Look, who knows? Who knows? Maybe you've released another variant. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there, Martin. It's what the world governments are doing to the people is just absolutely insane. So it's really last time, we talked about missing radioactive isotopes, and Alba was missing, and there's no fear. People just there's missing fear out there, but it just seems like the politicians are definitely they're missing a brain because they just keep on throwing more wood into this into the fire, and into this in particular the property arena, which we're going to obviously talk about, and how these global incidents are affecting us as well. So it's crazy.
Yeah, well, talking about crazy, this was one that really took my attention today. New South Wales Premier backs plan to house renters with retirees. So the idea to fill thousands of rented rooms in Sydney homes by electronically matching older homeowners with younger renters was floated over the weekend by SGS Economics and Planning. I think this is merit and at least worth discussing, Mr. Perrottet said on Monday. Now, remember, Edwin, it's only a month to the election. So here we are, another thought bubble.
Yeah, look, and then what we're going to get after that, 3 months to 6 months later, what we're going to get is how some old people got scammed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Suddenly their insurance is invalidated, and, you've got somebody in the property. I mean, it doesn't solve anything, really, does it?
Look, you start thinking about it. Look, sometimes I wonder where my mind heads sometimes. But the thing is, I started to think about all the scams that will go on, right? Think about the scams, and then you've got the you'll end up with 3 months, 6 months down the track, you'll all of a sudden end up with trophy wives. You'll also end up with sugar daddies. You'll end up with all these.
I can see it now. Yes, exactly.
So better watch out, Martin. Better watch out. They're coming for you, Martin. They are coming for you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure that. I'm not sure the dogs will put up with it. So we'll see. Now let's just talk about something else, of course, because the RBA is on parade tomorrow, right? And it's interesting because a few weeks ago, everyone was saying, oh, well, they might do 25 or they might park at where they were. But now people are saying, 25 minimum. Now some people are saying 40 basis points, like CBA said they might even go 40. And Warwick McKibben is saying we need 150 basis points rise from here just to get inflation under control. So we'll be interesting to see what you're going. Are you going 25 or what are you doing?
Look, Dusty's going 25. I say all in, Martin. All in. Go the full hog. Go the full 100. But is it really going to matter?
No.
At the end of the day, is it really going to matter at this point? And is it really going to make a difference? As I said, we look at property holistically, and is the rise? Yes, it's affecting a lot of households. There's a lot of households that are in mortgage stress, as you point out over and over again in your videos and in your podcasts, and which is a serious state of affairs out there from all walks of life, from the very wealthy to the to the not so wealthy that just got into a mortgage over the last 3 years. One of my mates, God forbid, he doesn't have an extra 10 grand discretionary money floating around anymore. So because he's got to tighten his belt, the little sweetheart. He's got 2 sports cars in the garage. He doesn't have kids, and his wife's got about 2 designer dogs and so forth, and they've got to get the pedicures and manicures and all this. So the poor little bastard, he's got to do without. There's a lot of pain out there, but notwithstanding that, and not undermining the pain that your average Joe is really feeling. And all this is what all this has created. And again, all these failed policies that the government has been throwing at the property market, that's only created another mess on the first home buyers front. The immigration policies that they're throwing at us now. I said, one of the things for sure that's really gone missing, and he went missing decades ago, was brain cells in Parliament House.
I think they're sharing the same one, and it's getting rather elderly, is my view. Anyway, let's move the conversation on, Edwin, because of course Australia, is the place to be, according to the latest from China, right?
Oh, look, it is. It really is. I guess the first and foremost, with the polls that they've been doing there in China, this is through the social media there, the WeChat chatters in China, and what they're saying. And this is open forums. This isn't anything that sort of comes up on WeChat and disappears. The government pulls it down. This is out there. And Australia is the flavour of the month, and I dare say it's going to become the flavour of the year. I've been saying, we've been talking about it on this show for a while, that overall, from a world point of view, Australia is a safe country, bar for Victoria. What I should stop hassling Victoria, shouldn't I? But the thing is, they're looking at Australia as a safe haven. But not only that, Martin, this is what the immigration, or the people there that are helping the students migrate or obtain the visa, the visa permits and so forth, and all the documentation and to come over to Australia. They're saying it's not only safe, but also up there, and the top reason is it has a very clear pathway for residency, right? And so one starts to think, as we were talking about last week, the fix is in. The fix was always in, right? So it's that, and they can see it themselves. It's a clear pathway for residency, and also for work opportunities. So reading through that article that I sent you in the Chinese article in the last snapshot there, what that says is basically, so if you've got if you obtain a Bachelor of Arts, if you become a BA graduate, you obtain a 485 work visa, which basically in previous years, that would give you could stay here in Australia for an extra 2 years and work, right? Under the 485. Now the government's given them 4 years, right? So we've gone from 2 years to 4 years. Then if you get a master's graduate, then you go from 3 years to 5 years. And if you've attained a PhD degree, you go from 4 years to 6 years that you can stay, of which at the end of that tenure, you can apply for residency. So why wouldn't you come to Australia, is what they're saying. Why wouldn't you, when the government, both sides of the house, the left and the right, the libs and the labs, have just made it so much easier to move forward. So it's, Albo and the crew, and I'm talking about across the board, all the politicians are cheering for joy, because all of a sudden now they've got not 2-year rental accommodation that they can lease out their investment properties to people, but now they're going to 4 years, from 3 to 5, then from 4 to 6. Happy days, Martin. Happy days for all the political property investors out there. It's a scam. It's a sham. The fix is in, and they know it. The WeChat chatters over in China know it, and look, and it's got to come to light here in Australia, and we talk about it. Obviously, we hear about it. But I don't think enough is done to put pressure on these government policies to be walked back.
No, exactly. It's going to be an extra force of people coming to the country. The migration numbers looks to be around 300,000 this year. We know that there are a lot of international students coming back, and of course China has now insisted people go back to Australia and other countries to do their work. You can't do it remotely anymore. So it's all going to be more people coming in, more demand for property. Whoopee, they'll be able to let theirs out for longer and for higher. And despite all of the pressure and everything, it's a bit lopsided, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it is, and this is where there's not going to be any easing in the rental in the rental side of things of the equation. If anything, things are only going to get worse. And like I said, one of my predictions that we spoke about was we're going to end up seeing caravan cities. Caravan parks are going to be the flavour of the month very soon in Sydney. I mean, there are some caravan parks around the place, and there's one in the Shire. There's a few around nearby, and you're gonna see more people, unfortunately, moving to that type of accommodation. And like they know the pressure's on, and like we discussed at the opening of the show, this move to start to join the elderly, the empty nesters, with those that are in need. I mean, there's all sorts of issues around that, and all because the governments are being flat-footed. They haven't really wanted to do things, but yet a little birdie tells me that there might be another sports stadium coming up soon, and I think it's around some entertainment stadium or some shit over in Penrith, where you can actually ski in summer and all that sort of stuff. How much is that going to cost?
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Well, there's always plenty to talk about with regard to property. But here's another angle, right? What about the WeChat chatters? Because basically it's all about go grab a property and then turn it into a property with more rooms, yet more rooms, and even more rooms.
Well, yeah, it's stressful, and this is where now, as I said, although they were offloading their apartment investments in previous months, but now with this new surge of student accommodation, the need for student accommodation for the students that are coming in. Now they're looking at the inner west areas. They're looking at your Dully Chills, your Ashfields, the train line that would take them into the city, into the tertiary education hubs. And they're looking into this area, but they're not looking at the newer type of apartments. They're looking at the older style apartments, 2-bedroom apartments, because they can convert them. They can break the rental ceiling. You may, under normal circumstances, you may be renting them for about $550, $570 a week. These older style apartments, apartments that were built in the 60s, late 50s, 60s, to mid 70s, that style of apartments, early 80s. And why? Because they have moved downward in value, because a lot of the people lost the appetite for them. But now they're becoming the flavour of the month, and more so when the WeChat chatters are going to jump in, or as they're jumping in and looking around. We went to an open house over in the suburb in the west looking for a client, and I kid you not, Martin, that in that particular open house, we witnessed as we were entering, there was about 4 or 5 WeChat chatter groups there, and as we were leaving, there were another 6 or 7 groups of WeChat chatter, apart from all other nationalities, lining up to have a look-see. Now, what do they do with it? This is the key, and this is what we've been talking about. What do they do with it? They convert them from a 2-bedroom, $550 a week rental income to a 6 bed, not bedroom, but to a 6-bed letting accommodation where they basically lease out each bed for on or about $150 per week to the students. So do the math and look at the rental return on that, and that is how they break those rental ceilings that are that your normal investor that would buy your traditional investment property and place it in your rental market would otherwise do. But these guys, they've got other options, and the nature of the times that we're in are making it very easy for the WeChat charters to do this.
Yeah, and you showed me a video a little while ago, which we might play now, right? Which is another example of an outhouse that's been converted into more accommodation.
Yeah, look, this is incredible. This is further out west. This is in the great region of Blacktown, my favourite spot. And this was an old shed. The old fibro sheds or workshops, as they used to be called many years ago, that's been converted into a sleep out. Call it a sleep out, teenager retreat, sleep out, granny flat. Just put in a bench with an electric electric cook stove there, and you can call it a granny flat. But yeah, this is what they're doing, and this is at the end of the day, it's a fibro shed with an attached bathroom, albeit badly maintained, but they get leased out. It's scary.
Yeah, and also, Edwin, it's also worth underscoring again, some of the older style properties have got really weird ceiling coverings, right? The vermiculite and asbestos. And it's interesting that you've highlighted this, because it's something I'm quite concerned about too. Some of it has asbestos, some of it's not asbestos, but it's still pretty nasty stuff.
Look, it is, and it's flip a coin. How do you know? Unless you get it tested. Obviously, for our clients, we make sure that that we, as our clients are interested in this type of properties as well, and we go out there and we make sure we cross all our T's and dot all our I's when it comes to making sure that we know what we're going to be working with, or the tradespeople are going to be working with moving forward when they drop the ceiling. In other words, when they put a false ceiling in to cover that, that can't be removed because it's from the vermiculite was used as a fire retardant in insulation from your concrete slabs in between the floors. For a lot of wood, using a lot of apartments, typical red brick, yellow brick apartments that were built in the late 60s to mid to late 70s. And this is where you're going to see them. The old expression, as I saw there in the New South Wales website there, it's the popcorn ceiling. Now, a lot of agents will tell you it's all safe, it's all right, but you don't know. Yep. You don't know. It's a 50-50 call.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it needs to be tested. And of course, sometimes they use that covering to cover up other nasties above, right? So you can never quite be sure as to what's above the spray-on finish that's there, and then it sort of sits there and lurks, and it could be asbestos. Yep. And of course, as I've said many times before, and I'll say it again, just a small exposure to asbestos, one-time exposure, is sufficient if you're predisposed to it to actually get into difficulty later. So this is a real risk. And unfortunately, my experience talking to a number of prospective purchasers, they don't look up. they look around, but don't look at the ceiling. Look at the ceilings. It's really important.
Yeah, very, very important. Or because they're painted all white, and it looks fancy to an extent. So you don't know. This is where look. What people have got to understand is, with a lot of these old buildings, they've got they've also got stress cracks and everything. So obviously the fibre and the particles are going to be falling down. Now, you could be in a building where it has vermin issues, and cockroaches love this shit. They absolutely love to nest up there. And I've seen a lot of it in Harris Park and in those areas, in the west, and also in Liverpool in Speed Street. where because of the nature of where the apartments are, close to water, close to, and the owners corporation or the strata hasn't maintained the units very well, so you end up with a lot of vermin and cockroaches. The German top cockroaches, they love to nest up there, and they'll dig and dig and dig, and obviously those fibers are going to be floating around. Now, on top of that, you've got tradespeople coming in and out and working on lights, working on smoke alarms. You yourself may hit it with a broom or vacuum or some object that you're moving from one room to the other. So you're always going to be scratching it, hitting it, and you're going to have these fibers floating around. And you just want to be sure that the vermiculite that you've got is one that's going to be obviously hazardous to your health, particularly if you're going to be sleeping there for years to come.
Absolutely great advice, Edwin. Yes, always we say check on the way in. Don't hope for the best, but check. Talk about insanity. Here's insanity squared, right?
This is crazy. Right? Sometimes you just want to go into Jose's chook pen and just scream. Perch with him and start crying. I don't know. I've got to do something to relieve this whole thing. It's just insane. But look, it's the logic is there though, right? The reasons are there, and that is because we've got very low numbers in a lot of suburbs in Sydney still to date, and more to the point, very low numbers of desired dwellings, right? So desired locations in the suburb, which is close proximity to a particular amenity or school, and desired style of home, which is something that's been partly or fully renovated, and people are throwing on it. But to the point where you get 110 groups of people in under an hour in Seven Hills in a 3-bedroom house with no garage, it is just crazy. But look, I say crazy, as the words roll off my tongue, but it's the Perrottet effect over and over again. And low numbers, we've got this perfect, you could call it a perfect storm, a perfect event for property flippers. I said that's what the Perrottet effect would create when they were talking about bringing it in. You and I spoke about it. We were very clear about it, and we said, and if listing numbers don't rise from then, if anything, we've seen them go backwards, and if they stay low and continue to stay low, and overshoot the listings, we should be seeing a lot more listings come on now, which we're not really. So if this trend continues, look, like I said, forget the 25 basis points or 50 basis points. People are cashed up, and also we're in that demographic, Martin, where you and I spoke about. We're in that demographic in those areas where you will get multi-generational families moving in. So mum and dad have sold their property, they've cashed out, they'll throw cash in to live with the kids. So this particular house doesn't suit it because it's only a 3-bedroom, but the price point does. And when, look, any other day, I believe that November last year, if this house was on the market November last year, they would have struggled to get the 900. But it shot by, and they got the million because there's nothing else. And the agent says it there in his text message to me. It's a 3-bedroom red brick home in South Seven Hills that hasn't come up in a while. So there you go.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, it's a mark of the times, isn't it? And talking about listings numbers, it's worth looking at those, right? So this is the Sydney numbers from the 6th, which of course is today. So 16,378. And still, I see that the houses and apartments are sort of notching up slightly. And compare it with last week, so 16,071. So a small increase.
Yeah, look, on average over the last 3 weeks or so, we've been averaging close to 500. But in my view, it's not enough. We need to see the old listings come back on. A lot of the agents that we've been speaking to, they're saying that the owners are somewhat hesitant
Yep.
to bring them on. Obviously, those that have to are, but those that have to and are bringing them on, they're getting a nice treat, because if you're in that price point, which is what these government policies were aiming to do, is become counterproductive and is worked totally against. It's really a blow in the face of first-home buyers, because they're having to pay a lot more. They may think that they're paying that they've got more to spend, but they end up paying a lot more for a property that they would have otherwise paid a hell of a lot less for. And who knows how those policies are going to change in years to come with the land tax scenario. So all these things, it's very chaotic out there. You've really got to be careful what you're buying, how you're buying. But having said that, Parapower and a few other Twitterers out there, the Twitter Artsy Club out there having noting down some properties that are be coming back on the market that were bought 3 to 6, 12 months ago. They're coming back on the market, and you only got to ask yourself the question, why?
Yes.
And how many issues, other than a financial issue, how many other issues have they come up with? And one particular property that myself and another team member, we went out to see on the weekend. It had been put back on the market because the first sale fell over, and although the agent spins all sorts of bullshit, I tend to believe that the valuer didn't value to what that purchaser bought it for 6 weeks ago.
Absolutely. There's some of that going on at the moment, I can tell you. But let's look at Melbourne, because Melbourne's also quite interesting. So this is last week. This is the 30th. There were 24,022 properties listed in the Melbourne region. And on the 6th of February, 24,681. So again, another slight jump up.
Yeah, but it's a lot better. They're in terms of for buyers, it's a lot better. But for vendors, they're really getting hammered. The interesting thing there is what you and I have discussed in previous podcasts, previous shows, is the fact that you've got almost double the amount of houses up on the market, and I would be one to think and believe that these houses are the ones in the subdivisions that have got your typical Marsden Parks and Schofields and Leppingtons down southwest regions. That those sort of where there's no infrastructure, people are struggling, and they bought on the whim because the government told them that it was a great idea and they should, and they believe these idiots that are, as you said, that are sharing two brain cells between the two parties.
Yeah, and I keep underscoring that the concept of the marginal buyer. So the point is, there can be quite a lot of people doing fine, but if you've got a small proportion of people who are really struggling, and we see that at the moment in some of those areas where they bought at the wrong point. So they bought when prices were really high, when interest rates were really low. Now those things are reversing. So there's now a little bit of panic in some of those areas where people are saying, I'm not going to be able to hang on, so I need to try and move the property on. We're seeing some of that in some of those areas now. So I do think that the weather has changed for property. And I'm actually thinking that Melbourne is where I'm seeing some of those changes happening more quickly than Sydney at the moment.
Yeah, look, it's only a wait and see, and just gauge the market as we move on a week by week basis. But from where we are right now, the sentiment and the talk amongst the real estate agents north, south, east, and west that we speak to on a weekly basis, there's a lot of hesitation from owners that are holding on. They're not wanting to list. But again, I spoke to one agent that he's in the Mid Mountains region, and when was I talking to him? On Saturday afternoon. And he's listed 12 properties. So again, it goes back to what type of property, the style of home, and then out of those 10 or 12 listings that is written up, the majority are investors that can't afford to maintain the properties, because a lot of obviously you're talking about the Mid Mountains region where there's a lot of hell of a lot more maintenance, like was in the Shire. And also you could also think in the Upper North Shore, basically wherever you're around bush area and you got that sort of the treescape regions, you got a lot of maintenance in homes that were basically built in the 30s or 40s that have been somewhat maintained, and it's got to a point with the heavy rains over the last couple of years. It is really trashed a lot of properties. And investors just landlords just saying, you know what, we just can't afford to keep them anymore to keep up with the maintenance, because in some of these regions, some regions of Sydney, they gravitate more to your traditional form of a rental market, landscape of a rental market. There's only so much that you can ask for. You can't do what the witch hat chatterers are doing in back down in your Albans, Lidcombes, your Gooners, Chester Hills, and so forth, and Ashfields or wherever, even Chatswoods. You can't do what they're doing there in your mountain, because the appetite for single room letting is just not there. It's not the type of demographics. So therefore, they are governed by a rental ceiling, and they haven't been able to bridge that, and therefore it is burning a hole in their financial pockets, and they do want to go out.
Absolutely. No, I'm seeing it in my surveys exactly as you've articulated there. Let's quick look at Brisbane. So this is Brisbane on the 30th of last month, 4975. Just mark that one, because on the 6th of February, 4863. Hang on, that's not going to happen. Listings going down. Goodness me.
Yeah, look, I've got a few friends up there in agents, but also a few friends that have gone up there, travelled up there, to do a lifestyle change. Told them they're foolish, but each to their own. And they're finding it very hard. They're almost having the same Pareto effect as we're having here. That numbers are going down, and they find it very, very hard to find home. In terms of prices, I don't follow that trend. In terms of what you following that more with with
prices are falling quicker in Brisbane than anywhere else, according to CoreLogic.
Yeah, so in that regard, so with your Twitter, Patsy, you're following that a lot closer. But I just look at the numbers, and from what the conversations I have as I try to gather as much information from these cities as we said we would for our viewers.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting because the CoreLogic data shows that even in Perth and Adelaide and down in Hobart, prices are also sliding now. So pretty much wherever you look, prices are on the slide to an extent. Be interesting to see how it plays out with those higher interest rates. And we should probably just reflect on the old auction clearance rates too, right? Or the auction listings. There's a few interesting numbers there too. A little bit higher numbers, but
almost 50% more though from last month. We still haven't reached the highs. But it's a big difference from the beginning of the year to now. But then if people follow us and they watch what we post, we put the weekly numbers up there and we see which way it's going and get an idea of the sentiment. Look, obviously with the local agents are going to be spruiking how the numbers are about attendees. The local people in these neighbourhoods where they're getting a lot of these groups of people turning up for property are going to be going out there hell for leather, spruiking. Now's a good time to sell. So it'll be. I don't have a breakdown. I could get a breakdown as to where most of these auctions are, but obviously we can perhaps start doing that from next show. I can give you a breakdown of the listing numbers to specific areas or suburbs.
I think that might be quite interesting, because in some suburbs it looks to me as though there's almost no auctions. In other suburbs, there's still a very heavy auction load.
Yeah, and I can tell you the West region is really coming up. That's where I'm seeing it when I have a look at it. I'm just trying to, as we speak. No, it's not going to let me do it. I have to log in. Well, let me do it now. I might get a little bit distracted. I was just going to pull it up pull these numbers up on the fly. No, it's not letting me do it.
Well, we'll come back to that next week, and perhaps spend a bit of time next week talking about where the auction hotspots are in terms of the different regions, because I think it will be quite an interesting piece of analysis.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. And what I'll do is when you post this on Twitter, when you post the show on Twitter, I'll tag I'll tag that report.
Okay, cool. Very good.
As a follow-up, which is good.
Yeah, excellent. Well, as we come to the end of this show, Edwin, I think thought of the week, we said earlier on, don't forget to look up, right?
Look, the thought of the week, now I'm changing that. I'm changing that now.
Okay.
from that first discussion, be careful who you invite to come and live with you if you've got spare rooms.
Yes, I think it's a very apposite recommendation. Yes, do a little check.
Martin, you might end up asking Robbie or your other mate John to be your best man at a wedding soon. Who knows? Just got to be careful.
Yes, I think there are a few steps probably that you're missing out there, Edwin. But generally, it's interesting, isn't it? How there's a certain vulnerability there that some people may exploit and others may not see, and that's something from a social dynamic perspective I think is pretty important. And I have to say, these economic rationalists who think they've got this wonderful solution. Problem over here, put them together. We solved a problem. No, you haven't. You just created two other problems, right?
Yeah. Look, we know that any real change, right? Any real or substantive policy is going to demand that new dwellings are going to have to be built, right? And if you're going to be looking at subdivisions, or if you're going to be looking at building shoe boxes wherever you're going to build them, the cost to build is just phenomenal at the moment. It's just almost counterproductive. But yet the government has a lot of assets that are sitting dormant, a lot of vacant shells that could be retrofitted into dwelling. They could be done properly with a lot less effort than having to subdivide and build, right? Not only that, but you've also got a lot of other space that we know, office space that's relatively vacant, that the government could be looking into buying. Apart from the fact that, as opposed to doing subdivisions out in Whoopal, where you've got no infrastructure, no real desire for people to move out into, as I've been saying over and over again, and for many years now, so the state has to put a lot more pressure on the local LGAs to reduce the red tape, not to go crazy like the state government comes in and all of a sudden gazettes areas for high-rise development, but to start looking at these bigger parcels of land. When I talk bigger parcels of land, I'm talking about your 750, your 900, your quarter-acre blocks that sit in LGAs, where to even build a granny flat, you have to jump through so many hoops and over so many fires. It is just incredible. So if they start doing those things, but start with the assets that they already own and retrofit them, rather than just selling them off willy-nilly, we could have something a little bit more in the shorter term, to be able to then house those of need. I know on social media and different platforms that economists have been talking about who do you accommodate first. Some are talking about raffles and all this. First and foremost are the needy, by way of your single parents and the elderly. That's first and foremost. Stuff this raffle business. There's a lot of need in that space, but they're off doing all sorts of other things that are just going to try and win them votes, and not do anything that's going to be substantive in the short, medium, or long term, which they've been playing this game for, as you and I've said, for 2 decades or so, or over 2 decades, and look at where we are.
Yeah, the politicisation of property, that's exactly right. And until that changes, we're not going to get anything substantive in terms of reform of the sector, unfortunately. And of course, everybody's locked into the election cycles, and we can't look beyond that, So I'm afraid it's same old, same old. Nothing's going to change, I think, Edwin. But of course, we'll be back next week, and we'll be able to see what has changed and what other new information, right? And if we had, radioactive isotopes last week, we had balloons this week. So I have no idea what next week will bring, but I'm sure it'll be something interesting.
Oh, look, I'm just sort of thinking a UFO landing in, on Ayers Rock.
Okay, we'll check that out next week, Edwin. Thanks very much, and appreciate all your efforts as normal. And we'll do it all again next week.
All the best, Martin.
See ya. Take care. Bye-bye.